Hey, what's up guys? Welcome to Lion's Heart. And in this video, I want to speak about the word yoga and what it truly means, and how most yoga today in the West especially is actually being done wrong. And if we take a look at yoga today, we see it everywhere. We see it on Instagram, we see people doing yoga in breweries, we see things like facial yoga and even, baby goat yoga. So it brings the question, what is yoga? And that's what I want to ask you. What comes to mind when you think of the word yoga? Is it people stretching? Is it people doing weird, breath work kind of postures? Is it crystals and beads and incense? Is it girls on Instagram in Lululemon pants, showing off their butt in provocative poses? So the point here is that yoga has become a very broad term. And what I want to tell you guys is that none of these things are yoga. Not even close, really. And to fully understand yoga, we have to really dive into its history and really understand the intention and the purpose behind why yoga was created. So to truly understand yoga, let's travel back to India thousands of years ago to where the ancient mystics and sages and yogis of India existed. So we have to understand these guys. These were hardcore aesthetics. These were hardcore spiritual aspirants. They were not doing 30 minutes to 1 hour of yoga a day in a park. They were fully dedicated to the spiritual path. They were fully dedicated to awakening. And these guys pretty much had sold their possessions. They had, renounced their names. Many of them just left their families to pursue awakening or enlightenment and God realization, which we'll get to later. But basically, these guys were hardcore spiritual aspirants. They were very dedicated. Think like Buddha, Ramana Maharshi, these kind of guys. That's the mindset that they had. That's the level of intensity that they had. So they're up in the mountains spending, 10 to 12 hours a day meditating, doing breath work, contemplating on their own existence, contemplating what is reality, who am I, what is this existence, these kinds of questions. They had no other distractions. They had no other things to think about with their lives except for these burning questions of existence and this desire to know themselves, to know the truth about reality, right? So these were hardcore guys, and they would spend a lot of time sitting in meditation. And because of this, they saw the body as a bit of a barrier to awakening. They had experiences, maybe they had peak experiences where they realized that they were more than the body. They were not limited to the body. They were more like the awareness, the space, the infinite void within which reality unfolds, right? So they began to see the body as a problem. They began to see the body as a limitation. So it was all about, releasing attachment from the body. They would starve themselves. They would do really long stints of fasting. Sometimes they would even sleep on beds of pins and needles. And even in very extreme cases, they would flagellate and dismember themselves. So this was very intense. And some of the wiser people within these groups at that time began to question this. They began to say, is this really necessary? Do we really need to, flagellate and completely disregard the body? What if we use the body as a vehicle towards awakening? What if we worked with the body? And this was when we started to see more asanas, more postures, more holding of the body in different ways to move the energy, to move the blockages, to work with the chakra system and the spine and, the breathing patterns and things like that. And what this did is it not only calmed the mind and brought the mind to a point of stillness, which is very essential for meditation. You can't truly meditate with an overly active mind. True meditation starts when you are in a state of stillness and calm. That's when meditation starts. So that's what these guys were using yoga to get to. And then when they got there, they would sit in meditation and contemplate on that oneness, contemplate on that awareness, on that beingness of reality. So yoga was used as a vehicle for this awakening to oneness. And what is this awakening to oneness? Well, the mystics say that you are not actually a separate individual inside the body, behind the eyes. You are actually all of reality. You are not limited to that body, inside that little body, but that body is inside of you as the spaciousness, the infinite spaciousness through which reality unfolds. You are that void. You are that space. You are that infinite now, within which this manifest reality moves, this manifest reality unfolds. So you, in a sense, are infinite, eternal awareness. And that is what yoga was used to come to the realization of. is there some individual over there on the other end of this hearing me, seeing me, looking out of the eyes? Or is that just a story? Is that just an idea? Where is this individual on the other end? Where can you grasp and see and really hold up this person, this separate person, right? And if you look, all you have really is your experience. There's visuals, there's sounds, there's movement, there's feelings, but there does not exist this separate person that's in there that this is happening to. That is a story that is added on to the experience. It's an add-on to reality. It's like a concept or an idea, but it's a very strong concept and a very strong idea. So what this does is it creates the illusion, the mystics say, the illusion that we are a separate being within reality, limited, and that reality is kind of like out here and happening separated from us. But what the mystics say is that this is false. This is not the truth. And what yoga and meditation and all these practices are about is dissolving that barrier, is dissolving that illusion, and ultimately, one, realizing that you're free of all of it, but that you're all of it. You are one with all of it as well. And that's where we kind of come into the heart and the union and the love aspects of spirituality, is this merging with reality. And to further understand this, let's take a look at what some of the greatest mystics who have walked the earth have said. And it's kind of funny because some of these guys you wouldn't think of as yoga guys. You wouldn't think of them as yogis. They definitely didn't burn incense and use crystals and, make sure they were doing downward facing dog in a cute pose with the baby goat on their back to look good for Instagram. But these were some of the greatest yogis to walk the earth. And if we look at someone like Jesus Christ, and I don't mean the religious version, the dogmatic kind of Christian version of Jesus, but I really mean the man, the mystic, the awakened being who walked the earth. He was a great yogi because he had a deep realization of oneness. He had a deep realization that he was not separate from reality and other people, that it was all one being experiencing itself in different forms. And he dedicated his life to understanding, realizing that, and then teaching it to others. So in this way, he was one of the greatest yogis ever. And if we look at quotes from Jesus, the kingdom of God is within is one of his quotes. That's basically saying that you are not separate from God, reality, the universe. You are one with that. And if you go within and you question your existence and you contemplate and you meditate, you will awaken to this fact that you are not separate from reality and God. It's not that you're a piece of God. It's not that you're a creation of God, but you are fully 100% God. The kingdom of God is within. The whole thing is within you. We also see from Jesus, before Abraham was, I am. Basically, this means, as I was pointing to earlier, is that beingness, that void, that I amness, that space has existed forever in the now. So it's not forever over a long period of time, but it's always been here as that awareness, as that space. And in that space, manifest reality has unfolded. So Abraham, your parents' parents, all these people, all these events, all these things have occurred within that space of nowness. What did some other great mystics and yogis say? Well, we've got a quote from Plotinus, who was a great Greek philosopher, and he said, "We are not separated from the one, we are only unaware." Which again points to this illusion that we're separate. It's this illusion that we are this individual being limited inside the body. But what this mystic is saying is that we're not separated. And what's funny is that Plotinus knew nothing about asanas and yoga, yet he was a great yogi because he had an understanding of this oneness, right? We've got the quote from Rumi, "You are not a drop in the ocean, but you are the ocean in a drop," which is basically the same thing as Plotinus is saying, which is that you are the whole thing. You are all of reality. We've got Nisargadatta Maharaj, who says, "You and the world are not two." What is this pointing to? Non-duality, this oneness, right? Not two. So if you're not two, it's one. You are one with all of reality. And one of my favorite quotes is from Kabir, and he says, "I laugh when I hear that the fish in the water is thirsty." And what is this saying? It's saying that you're a fish in the water. You're surrounded in this bliss. You're surrounded in God. You're surrounded in awareness. You're surrounded in this oneness. Yet because of this illusion that we're separate, this delusion, we're saying we're thirsty. We're saying there's problems and we're suffering and that we're separated and that it's scary and we're isolated. So you guys get the point. Yoga is about oneness, right? So if we look at yoga today, especially in the West, this is not what is spoken about in the studios. This is not what's really taught. I can say for myself, I did yoga for 10 years in the US and in different cities and things like that. And I thought I was doing yoga. I thought I was really doing proper yoga. I was holding the poses, I was doing the breathing, and I felt peaceful in my mind. I felt calm. I felt, maybe even connected and spiritual. But it wasn't until about 10 years and I walked into an actual yoga school, a proper yoga school that was teaching true yoga, and was really had that historical, they studied the text, they studied the mystics, and they had that container of using this for realization, for that recognition of oneness. And that was the first time I actually started beginning to do true yoga. And I wanted to make this video because, we just see so much different types of yoga. There's crystals, there's baby goat yoga, there's facial yoga, and even in the more like Ashtanga, Vinyasa, Yin yoga, they really rarely talk about this oneness. And maybe that's because they have a business and they don't want to be freaking people out. But I think it's kind of a shame. And honestly, I don't think we should call this yoga. I think it's great if people want to relax and stretch and improve their breathing and calm their minds. But let's not call it yoga. Let's not disrespect what this, really profound tradition and science and technology of the body for raising the consciousness, raising the Kundalini and awakening was intended for. So that's kind of the point of this video. I would like to share that there's a few books that if you are interested in learning about true yoga and you found some of the things that I've been saying about awakening and oneness at least interesting, I would love to share a few books. One is Be As You Are by Ramana Maharshi. That's very powerful and it gets directly to the point of this oneness. It's basically questioning, your existence and who you are existentially. I Am That by Nisargadatta Maharaj, which is a very profound book on the same kind of concepts and topic here. The Yoga Sutras of Patanjali is a very classic yoga book, which really gets to the core of yoga. And if you want more of like a storytelling, kind of relatable, more kind of entertaining book, I really recommend Autobiography of a Yogi, where he tells his life story, but also hits on all these points. And also go check out a school. Go check out a real yoga school. Maybe if you have the time, go to India. And, lastly, I'll share that even though most yoga is done wrong, any yoga that's bringing you to oneness, that's bringing you to that realization is proper yoga. So if going for a walk in the park and contemplating that there is no separation between you and a tree is bringing you closer to oneness, is dissolving your ego, then that is yoga. If having sex and seeing your partner as one with you, one with God, a separate person, a separate body, but the same awareness and being, that infinite nowness existing in, each other, that is yoga. If you maybe take plant medicine and that awakens you to oneness and that helps you realize that your ego is an illusion, then that's psychedelic yoga. So yoga is actually anything that's bringing you to that oneness. So yes, even if you are in a park doing baby goat yoga, but you're contemplating that the baby goat on your back is also you in a different form, then you're doing yoga. So we don't have to cut out baby goat yoga. But yes, that truly is the core of yoga, is bringing you back to that oneness. And I will share that a very powerful form of yoga, for me at least, that I think is really effective, is self-inquiry. So with that, I leave you guys. And just to conclude, yoga is a beautiful practice. And really, true yoga is reserved for the select few who want to awaken in this lifetime. It's reserved for those who are willing to put in the dedication, the discipline, they have the patience, they're willing to put in the time to actually awaken in this lifetime. It is not a small feat. It takes a long time horizon. Can be very meticulous, can be very boring, but if you truly devote yourself to yoga and you truly commit to this path, then you will begin to feel so much more freedom, union, and connection to reality. So I can't recommend doing real yoga enough. And I hope this video helped to kind of clear some things up and shed some light on these differences between true yoga and fake yoga. Much love, guys. Talk soon. Cheers.